We talked about what kind of challenges that people can come up against. Some of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners making here is doubling up on software. So if you're still using Dropbox as well as Google Drive, or maybe you're using Zoom instead of Google Meet when Meet has 90% of the features, maybe you're using Slack instead of Google Chat when Google Chat has 90% of the features. Now, this is not by the fault of the business owner or by the omission or, by them not knowing what tools or services out there are available. They probably just haven't had the time to keep up with these things. Now, we're a Google business and we keep on top of Google's developments and all of the changes that they've made to Meet and Chat and all the other amazing Google tools. But for most business owners, they jump on something, they stick to it, and they just keep using it until they're told not to. Well, I'm telling you to change. When you're in a growth business, you need to cut down on subscription fatigue, because if you're using multiple different apps for the same thing, not only are there security risks, and I've done different videos on why it can be a bad idea to have too many applications doubling up, but also we want to start saving some money and operationalizing the business for growth, which means that you need capital for growth as well. So cutting down the IT bill by consolidating applications and starting to bring in a more standardized way of doing things is going to reap really great rewards for you. One of the best reasons for you to go all in on the Google ecosystem, if you're already a subscriber to G Suite, is that it's going to reduce costs, but it also reduces complexity for your team. When your team have one login for all of their applications, makes their job super easy. They don't have to remember a million different passwords, because your most important task here is getting efficiency in the labor that you have from your team members. So that means making them as efficient as possible. You want to remove all of the barriers for them just getting their work done. Just getting their work done is the most important thing that you can be doing for a growth business. So what kind of software might we be implementing for a growth business? Well, this is the time when we start to talk about a relational management system. And so that may be a marketing database like an Entreport or an ActiveCampaign or an Infusionsoft, where you're doing a lot of email marketing and you want to have a lot of automation and automated flows in your marketing. Or if you're doing a consultative type sales process, or you want to manage partnerships, or you have any kind of relational work with your customers, maybe account management or managing existing customer or client accounts, well, you might choose to use a relational CRM system. And so that's a customer management system like Copper CRM. And that's the one that we're partnered with and the one that we recommend. And what that allows you to do is track all of the activity between you and your team and your customers all in one place. We've got other videos going deeper into Copper CRM and its benefits. The other system that you may look into using is shared mailboxes. If you're like most businesses, you'll have some element of your business that is customer service, whether it's project delivery or whether it's dealing with support queries or customer service queries from your customers. Well, you're probably getting a lot of email. And if right now you've got all the email coming into your inbox as the director, or you've got a shared mailbox but it's not quite working that well because you're getting too many messages overloading the shared mailbox, or maybe your individual staff are just managing customer emails themselves, but you have no way of tracking who's doing what and whether or not your staff are actually giving a consistent experience to your customers. Well, a shared mailbox system will allow you to have a team mailbox where emails can flow into, and that allows you to better manage customer requests. Shared mailbox software, as an example, Hiver HQ, will allow you to have multiple people peering into one mailbox. You can have things like guaranteed response times, you can assign an email to someone in particular, and you can have one consistent brand every time you send out an email, so that every one of your customers sees the same email address when they're interacting with your company. And that is what large organizations use. They call them ticketing systems, but for small and medium businesses, you want something simple that's easy to use for your team, ideally that works right inside your Gmail mailbox, but gives an amazing customer experience to your customers. And so that's where a shared mailbox system is going to be a big help for you guys. Next up, we're going to start talking about things like workflow automation. This is where a business starts to put some things into place in actually automating workflows. Now, that may be going from, let's say, for example, your website down automatically into your lead or your CRM system. You may have someone fill out a project form after you've completed a project with them and you automatically want to send them an automated email. Or you may have someone's details captured into a spreadsheet, and from that spreadsheet you want to enter it into your billing or invoicing system like Xero.com. What automations will allow you to do is actually have some of that data entry done automatically for you. And we start to think about the flow of information within your company and getting that more efficient so there's less human time taken up and less chance for errors as well. By now, as you're in the growth stage of the business, I said that you should be developing your business model and developing the way that your business is going to scale. Now, yes, you're going to be every 12 to 18 months coming up with different ways of positioning your business in the marketplace and different ways of delivering and trying out new products and services and ways for you to actually breach through the growth stage. But while you're doing that, you want to make sure you're as efficient as possible with the team members, and that's where automation comes in. Now, if you're in the late stages of the growth area of the business, you're really going to be auditing and tidying up everything that you're doing. You're going to be starting to put in place some IT policies. You're going to be starting to have policies in place for who can share what with who within the business. You're going to be organizing your teams into organizational groups, and so you're going to be using those groups for group-based permissions across the different areas of the business. And that means that you and your team are going to start to really operationalize and act like a big company, act like a grown-up company. Now, what that means is you're going to be starting to put in place some of the, let's call it bureaucracy, some of the things you probably tried to avoid having a small business, but these are the things that are going to help you become a scale business. All right, so let's move on to our next one. Let's talk about the next stage of business, and that is our scale stage. Now, this is once you've made it out of the desert and you are growing to a team with at least 20 employees, and this is really where you stretch your legs as a business. The most important thing here is to rethink your customer experience, because the challenges that you're going to be coming up against here is your customers will start to treat you differently. Your customers will no longer treat you like a small business because the business owner, that's you, are probably becoming off the tools. You're moving away from doing the day-to-day work of actually delivering to your customers, but you're even moving away from the day-to-day work of managing customer problems. You may even stop selling to customers and build a sales team who are actually taking care of that for you. And you really become a bit of an entrepreneur behind the curtains. Now, this is a real identity shift for a lot of businesses because you're switching from someone who's been identified by the business. You've actually had your ego and your identity as a part of the business, as an intrinsic connection between the two. And so now what it's about is actually growing the business a bit more from behind the scenes. Now, you're probably going to be doing things like building out a leadership team, building that leadership and management structure inside the business. You're definitely going to be putting in place HR operations. You're definitely going to be the custodian of culture to make sure that that is in check in the business. And your plan is managing talent, managing brand, managing top-level business strategy, and basically don't run out of money is rule number one. And then you're going to be chaperoning and shepherding the business through its continued growth stages. Now, this is where the business gets a little bit easier. You do start to harvest some of the profits, which is great. You'll probably have things a little bit easier for yourself, but you also have the flip side of more responsibility. The more people that you hire, the more people who are not only working for you and depending on you, but their dependents are depending on them. And so it can feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders when you have literally hundreds of direct and indirect people who are responsible for being looked after by the business and by you. And so this is where you really need to work on your leadership skills being a part of the business. And I found that this was like a profound shift for me in what my day-to-day work was. Previously, where my work was like solving customer problems and jumping into the sales call and helping the sales team close a big deal, now my job was making sure that my people were happy, they were healthy, making sure that everyone was well looked after, making sure that the culture of the business was intact with the people that we were hiring, and then making sure that our strategic plan in the next 2 to 3 or 5 or more years is going to ensure the survival of our organization. Because if I don't ensure the survival of the organization, then I'm potentially going to have tens of people and all of their dependents as well, potentially in a poorer position, and I don't want that. So the biggest shift here is really with the founder, but the rest of the company is going to have to start behaving like a larger scale business. This is really about businesses graduating into what we call the mid-market. Now, this is in Australia. Obviously, different countries are going to have different levels that they would call an actual mid-market company. But we're going to move away from using things like spreadsheets for our data and our KPIs, and we're going to start to really operationalize those into technology tools. So this is the stage of business where you may choose to roll out something like a dashboard, and that dashboard will automatically pull in the different bits of data from the different areas of your business and display those as KPIs. Now, a business that's in the growth stage, as I said earlier, might dream of having clear KPIs or might dream of having a dashboard, but the business changes every 12 to 18 months, so they might set it up once and then not use it again. Well, in a scale business, this is critical because it's all about running the business on the numbers and less about gut feeling. Now, yes, entrepreneurs need to have a gut feeling when they're making strategic decisions, but many business owners, when they get to the scale stage, because we're talking about millions of dollars of revenue, they'll often make, I call them big bets, and those big bets might be hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time because, yeah, they've got the money to spend, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to actually spend it or go about that. Decisions should be all data-based decisions. Take the emotion out of it and just focus on the data, and something like a business dashboard is going to allow you to do that really easily. Now, we use something called Google Data Studio, and we have connectors built to Xero.com, Facebook advertising platforms, YouTube, Google Analytics, and pretty much anywhere you want to pull data from, we can pull data and then visualize it inside a business dashboard. And this is really helpful to companies that are in the scale stage.